Research shows that a middle class income falls somewhere between $56,000 to about $170,000 a year. But here's the thing, more than 84% of people living in the US make less than $100,000 a year. That means if you're trying to build wealth on a middle class income, you're probably doing it with less than six figures. So is this a goal worth pursuing, or just some far-fetched idea that's so far out of reach it'll never happen for most people? Here's the truth you absolutely need to know. Building wealth on a middle class income takes a completely different mindset and strategy. It's not just about cutting back, tightening your budget, or increasing your income. It's about how you spend, how you save, and how you invest, and most importantly, how you think about money when the numbers just don't feel big enough yet. It turns out that achieving financial freedom is actually more about strategy than it is about income or even debt. So let's talk about what it really takes to build wealth on a middle class income and how you can create the financial freedom that you truly want. Let's start by busting one of the biggest myths out there, that you can only build wealth if you're in a high-paying career. If you're a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, a software developer, or pulling in six figures or more. That myth is everywhere, especially here on YouTube. You watch all these financial creators who are making 150, 200, 300,000, 300,000 a year. And it starts to feel like, where's my story? Where's the journey for people like me? I get it. Most people, like more than 80% in fact, are in this middle income range, earning 50 to maybe 100,000 a year. And when you look around at those high income success stories, you start to wonder how all that advice floating around out there can actually apply to your life, your financial struggles. Here's what I want you to hear loud and clear. You don't need a massive income to build wealth, but you do need to play the game intentionally. Middle class earners have unique strengths. They often have a stable income, decent benefits, and community support, but they also face unique challenges like slower salary growth, heavier family costs, and less margin for error. So while you can build wealth from a middle class income, you just can't copy and paste the strategies of someone who's making $200,000 a year. You need your own approach, your own mindset, and your own plan for leveraging the strategies that will work in your situation. In fact, I'll tell you a little personal truth here in my own journey. I realized wealth isn't just about how much you earn. It's about what you do with what you have. It's about how you stretch your dollars, how you grow your skills, and how you protect your time and energy along the way. And I'll say this up front because it's important. Yes, sometimes you'll need to put in extra work, extra hours, and maybe some late nights and weekends to increase your ability to earn more money. But here's a warning I wish someone had told me years ago. Don't sacrifice everything in the name of building wealth. Your family, your time with your kids, your relationships, those are things you can't buy back later. In my own financial journey, I became an entrepreneur because I was a single mom raising 5 kids. And I could not stand the thought of the daycare workers, the school teachers, or the moms of my kids' friends being the only ones raising my kids. I wanted to be there. I wanted to show up for the orchestra concerts, the soccer games, the football matches, the parent-teacher meetings. And in the beginning, I did. I never missed a single one of my daughter's orchestra performances or my son's games. I prioritized being present because I believed and still believe that no business or financial success is worth missing out on your children's lives. But here's the hard truth that I had to face. As my business grew, while I thought I was still prioritizing the big things, the most important things, it was the little things, the weekend trips, the movie nights, the spontaneous family fun. They were quietly slipping away. Suddenly, my kids were teenagers and then graduating, and I realized there were huge gaps where our lives were just school, proms, homecoming, homework, chores, the big things. And there was very little of the real, deep quality time together. And here's the part that hits hardest. No matter how much my heart breaks or yearns for those days, I can't get them back. So when I talk about building wealth on a middle class income, I'm not here to tell you to just hustle harder. I'm here to tell you, yes, sometimes you will need to push yourself, but be careful that you're not sacrificing the things you can never replace. Wealth is about freedom, but freedom is meaningless if you've lost the people and the moments that matter the most. So while there might be seasons of sacrifice, make sure you're not over-sacrificing the most precious parts of your life. Wealth is about freedom, not just numbers on a spreadsheet. So let's talk about the challenges that middle-class earners face when they're trying to build wealth. And the real challenges that don't often get talked about, because here's the truth. Even if you're making a solid, steady income, maybe 50, 60, 80K a year, it can still feel like you're running uphill in the wealth building game. And here's why that is. First is limited salary growth. For many people in middle income jobs, promotions or raises don't come in huge leaps. You might get a 2%, 3%, maybe a 5% raise, but it's not the same as landing a massive tech bonus or jumping into a six-figure field. Your income grows, but it's slow. And the next is heavy financial and life costs. You're often carrying the big life expenses, a mortgage or rent sometimes, groceries for a whole household, school costs, sports fees, activities for the kids, maybe even caring for an aging parent or helping family members. It adds up fast. And unlike the single high-income earner who can aggressively stash away money, you're also often spread thin against many financial responsibilities. And the next is limited time and energy, which is a huge factor. And it's because working full-time and managing a household, helping with homework, chores, and by the time you sit down at night, you're just done. You're exhausted. And the energy that you could put into side hustles or leveling up your skills or planning your future financial moves is often eaten up by the sheer demands of everyday life. And let's not overlook this, and that's the psychological pressure. It's easy to fall into the trap of comparing yourself to people who earn more or have different life circumstances. You scroll through social media or watch YouTube and you start feeling like you're behind, like you're failing, like you'll never get ahead because you're just not in the right career or salary range. But here's the truth that I want you to hold on to. Yes, these challenges are real, but they're not insurmountable. You just need to understand that building wealth from a middle-class income requires a different playbook. You have to leverage the right strategies for your situation, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. So let's get into the part you're probably here for. What can you actually do to build wealth on a middle-class income? Because here's the truth. You can't just copy and paste what works for those high-income earners. It's about the strategies that align with your income, your lifestyle, and your long-term goals. So what does that look like? First, strategy one. Intentionally increase your income now. I'm not saying you have to switch careers or chase six figures overnight, but if your income has been stuck at the same level for years, it's time to look at small strategic boosts. Can you take on a side hustle that's a good fit for your life? Can you develop a skill that increases your marketability? Can you look for small promotions or incremental raises in your current role or field? It doesn't have to be a giant leap because even small boosts in income can compound over time. The next strategy is to optimize your big expenses. When people think about saving, they often focus on cutting out the small stuff, the lattes, the streaming subscriptions, the little luxuries. But the biggest wins come from your big expenses. Housing, transportation, food. If you can optimize even one of these categories, you can free up hundreds or even thousands of dollars a year. Money that could be redirected towards saving, investing, or debt payoff. Strategy 3 is to manage your debt wisely. Middle-class families often carry a mix of debts like student loans, car loans, credit cards, and here's the danger. High interest debt can quietly erode your wealth building efforts. So it's not just about paying the minimums. It's about having a clear, intentional debt strategy. Prioritize high interest balances and avoid taking on new lifestyle debt. And make sure debt is helping you move forward, not holding you back. Strategy 4 is to increase your saving and investing rate. Here's something most people miss. You don't need to save massive amounts to build wealth. You just need to be consistent. Even small percentages add up when you're investing consistently over time. It's not about waiting until you have more money. It's about starting now with what you can set aside and letting time and compounding do the work. Strategy 5 is to leverage time and consistency. And this is where the magic really happens. Wealth isn't built in one giant leap. It's built through small, repeated actions that are consistent over time. You don't need perfection and you don't need overnight success. You need a long-term mindset and the patience to keep going. And here's a bonus. Balance your hustle season. Yes, there may be times, there may be seasons when you need to stretch yourself, whether it's picking up extra work, pursuing a degree, or pushing yourself to build something new. But remember, it's a season. Don't sacrifice your wealth, your relationships, or your family time forever. True wealth is about creating a life you love, not just about stacking up numbers in an account. This is where you need to stop and look around at your situation and ask, what's one thing you can do to move yourself forward on your financial journey? Big or small, every intentional step counts. And here's the thing, if you're only able to take one small step forward right now, those small steps can completely change your wealth trajectory if you use them wisely. You need to know how to make every dollar count. So don't miss this video next.